Welcome back to our course on PowerPoint 2013. In this section we're going to start to look at the important subject of masters, themes and layouts. And we're going to begin by starting to create a new presentation based on one of the standard templates that's available in PowerPoint 13. For this particular part of the course we're going to start a new presentation, and this presentation is going to cover in outline the structure of Parliament in the UK. Now when we come to do the exercises based on this, you don't really need to do them based on UK Parliament. You can base them on either the government of your own country or perhaps on another organisation that you're involved in. Perhaps if you're a college student, university student, perhaps you could do it on the organisation of university or department, or if you're at work, perhaps the structure of your company, the board of directors of your company. But on this occasion I'm going to use the UK Parliament, and the standard templates that we've seen already on this start screen for PowerPoint 2013, I'm going to look at one of those with a view to reviewing it for the purposes of this presentation. Now if I want to have a look at this template, which is called Slice, I click it once and I can preview the different slide layouts available if I use that template. Now more images underneath this main preview here gives me view of the layout of that with various content. Give me some idea of what it would look like. Well, actually that looks okay. It's fairly colourful, but it's not too overpowering, so that's fine. I can also see the same layout with different colour schemes on the right. Note the different main colours on each of those slides, and then associated with each a little sort of palette of colours that I'll explain to you in a little while. If I decide that maybe that isn't the template for me, I can step through the other ones using these arrows to the right and left. Now that's definitely not something you'd look at Parliament with. Yeah, maybe that one's not so bad. Anyway, I step through, I look at the different options. I think I'm going to go back to my first choice. And when I've made my choice, I click on Create. And I have my first slide in place ready to use. And of course I have now saved that using a suitable title to make sure that I don't use it. I have autosave on, and of course I'm set up to back up all of my work at the end of each working day, so I feel pretty safe carrying on working on this presentation. So let me put a title in, so I click to add title. The placeholder text box is now ready for me to type into, and I'm also going to type in a subtitle. Okay, and I have my first slide. So now I'm going to put in my next slide. I'm quite deliberately doing this in a little bit of a haphazard fashion because I'm going to show you later on how to tidy this all up and put it into sequence. But let's suppose my next decision is to put in a slide about the House of Commons. So on the Home tab in the Slides group, the New Slide button, the lower part, we know that if we click on that we're shown a number of alternative layouts. Note that there are quite a few layouts with this particular template. I'm going to go for that one, title and content. Note the title's at the bottom, so I put down there House of Commons, and then I'm going to type up here some information. The House of Commons is the ... for the moment. Okay, now I've got two slides, and those two slides are the beginning of my presentation. But what I want to do now is to talk to you about what gives this particular presentation its design, its colour, its style, everything you can see about it at the moment. Where does all that come from? Well, the first thing I want to point out, and this is really aimed at those people who have used only much older versions of PowerPoint, is that the way this works has changed in the most recent versions. And in the very old versions, everything was based on a template. And once you had a template, that pretty much dictated everything about what was in your presentation. Well, although we still talk about these templates, what they do and how much they do has changed quite a bit in the last 2 or 3 versions. If we look at just the slide you're looking at the moment, the key thing about this slide is that it is based on a layout. And let's suppose I made 5 or 6 slides based on that layout. If I change any one of those slides individually, the same change will not occur or not be made to the other ones of the slides, the ones made from the same layout. So the principle is, if I wanted to change this slide, let's suppose for example that I thought, well really I want to put this at the top and the text at the bottom, and I wanted to do that to all of the slides based on the same layout, then what I would do is to change the layout or to create a new layout with that particular configuration. So there is a strong element of what we would call inheritance here. If you base a slide on a layout and you want to change the layout, you don't go through each individual slide based on that layout and change the individual slides, you change the layout. Now there is then a structure above that that says my layouts are based on a master, and if I want to change something which is applied at the master level, then I make that change at the master level. So for instance, if the background color, the graphics that are used, the style used in the background for all of my slides and all of my layouts is based on the master, and I want to change that, then what I do is I make the change to the master. So when I'm making changes, I try to make changes at the highest level in that structure that I can. Now in order to illustrate the next 2 or 3 points, I put in a third slide. This is a slide with a short statement about what the House of Lords does. I've also put in the function of the House of Commons on the second slide. And the first thing I want to demonstrate is that you can, for any one of these slides, change which layout it is based on. So let's for example suppose that I choose the third slide, right click on the contextual menu, one of the options there is layout, and from layout I can see the gallery of the available slide layouts. Now the one I used when I made this was title and content. You can see it highlighted there. I could say I want it to be the to content layout. Now watch what happens to the slide if I do that. And I see that although the title is still where it was, the first part of content, which has got the statement about what the House of Lords does, is in a differently configured placeholder text box up here, and then I've got a second placeholder text box which is currently empty. I can tell it's empty because it says click to add text. Now note that in doing that, that did not affect the other slide that was created from that layout. So even though I've created a slide using a particular layout, I can subsequently change the layout, which is one important thing to be aware of. So let me undo that particular change and put that slide back to the layout that it was created from. And now I want to go to the View tab. And very early on in the course I mentioned to you about the View tab that there are some master views here. And the view we're going to look at now is the Slide Master view. Master slides control the look of your entire presentation, including colors, fonts, backgrounds, effects, and just about everything else. Now let's click on Slide Master, and we get on the left a master view. Now the slide at the very top, the one with the larger thumbnail, is the Slide Master. And the pop-up tip there says used by slides 1 to 3. This Slide Master is used by 3 slides. And that Slide Master has, coming out the bottom of it, dotted line, and from that dotted line it goes into a succession of layouts. Now let's look at the first layout. Let's just hover over that. That's the title slide layout. That's used by 1 slide. Next one is the title and content layout. That's used by 2 slides. Now none of the other layouts have been used at the moment, but basically these layouts derive most of their settings from the master, and in particular the color, font size, etc. They all start life using what they inherit from the master. So for instance, if I change the color scheme on the master, I change the color scheme on everything that derives from it. But the master doesn't dictate exactly where their placeholders are. If you, for instance, look at this one, the title and content layout, its placeholder here is an independent property of that layout. So let's suppose that I decided to put that at the top of the screen and to pull the other placeholder, the one with the text in it, down. So I've changed that layout. That has no effect on the master. I changed the layout. There's a button here on the ribbon, Close Master View. You need to click that button when you finish looking at Master View. Now when I go back to my presentation, the two slides that have been generated from that layout have both had their layouts changed because they're now linked to a layout which has itself been changed. And that really is the relationship between the master, the layouts and the slides. So I think that's enough for this section. In the next section we're going to carry on with this particular subject, and we're going to look at how themes fit in and how we can change and customize what's there and how we can introduce additional masters. So please join me for that.